everyone. We are back with another week of Tales from the Tavern. Hope you all are having a great evening today. Welcome in to all of the new followers tonight. I am Gamer Mom Luna, and basically the way that this stream works is in just a minute I will have all of my guests introduce themselves, and then we take all of our questions from chat. So the chat is open. If anybody has any questions, feel free to just drop them right into chat, and I have a moderator who will feed them to me and make sure that I see them so that we don't skip any. We also have a Ask My Question Next that you can use with channel points for 1,000 channel points, and 3 times a night we can have a question skip up to the top of the queue, so feel free to use that. And I am, without any further ado, I am going to go around and have all of our guests introduce themselves. So, Brent, we're going to start with you.
Yippee! Hi! My name is Brent, also at Dorklord Canada on Twitter. And I am a Canadian gaming nerd, tabletop role-playing editor. And I sometimes write about tabletop games as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you reached out, and like I said, I say this all the time, but it's always super nice when I can put a face to like a Twitter handle. So I'm glad to have you here. Next, we will go to Mark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark. I'm the CEO of Gamers Ledge. We're a geekery community. It's been in existence for 20 years. We help people wisely spend their discretionary income. And we showcase a lot of things that we think are cool that people should play. You can find me at Gamers Ledge on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube is really long, and hopefully they'll put it in the chat.
Yes, it is in the chat. I can see it there now. So, yeah, definitely drop a follow. Well, thank you for coming on tonight. I'm excited to get to chat with you a little bit more as well. And let's see, what did we say? Third time returning guest, Nicola.
I just can't stay away. I mean, why? What would be the point?
It's okay. I would miss you if you weren't here.
Yeah, I'm Nicola. You can find me on Twitter at Nicola the Druid. I'm also the founder of Druidcraft Productions, where I host a weekly show on Twitch called Tiny Hut, focused on education, advocacy, and charity. And also next weekend, you can find me with the rest of my Good Better Quest family in the most epic crossover that has been so long in the making with the From Afar podcast. So, yeah, come check that out.
About that.
It is also for charity, because I don't do anything if it's not helping something. And so we're going to be supporting the Transgender Law Center, and that's going to be really cool as well.
Nice. That's exciting. You'll have to give us all the details a little bit later. So, all right. And next we will go to Joel.
Oh God. Hello, I'm Joel. I mostly just play a little halfling wizard in Curse of Strahd with the Talking Speak crew. I also write homebrew stuff for Math Productions. Also, I don't do much on my own. I just like to play and have fun with others. You can find me on Twitter on SetX, ShadowAceXed. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you on as well, because I know we've interacted on Twitter a bunch, but this is our first time actually getting to talk, so it's great.
You're one of the first people that I followed when I first joined the tabletop world.
I'm so happy. No, I think I remember that actually. I think I remember chatting with you when that happened. So, and next, our primary question asker du jour. We all know him as Vertrox Nightblood, Trevor.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm Trevor, or Vertrox. I don't really do anything online. I'm just here to make everyone look better. No, I'm a recurring player on Lost Tower of Ambrosia, but that's not super special because literally dropping an application, you could join it too. And just kind of involved in the community mainly because of Nicole, because I've known her for so long.
I apologize now to everybody about that.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. Trevor, I'm gonna default to calling you Vertrox because I'm
That's
so
fine.
used to calling you that.
I just put both up because whatever.
Vertrox has played Jackbox games in my Discord for a couple of weeks every now and then, and yeah, so it's been fun getting the chance to actually chat and have some entertaining times playing Jackbox games. All right. Well, we have already gotten our first question, but for those of you who came in during the introductions, the way that this works is chat is the one who asks all of our questions. So if you have a question that you would like to ask this panel, feel free to just drop it into chat and one of our moderators will make sure that we see it. And like I said, also we have the Ask My Question next. So for 1,000 channel points, you can use that and get your question bumped up to the next one in the queue. But to get started, we're going to start with a question from Jim the Dim. And Jim's question is, what is your favorite alignment and why is it chaotic neutral?
Alignment is arbitrary and stupid. That's my answer.
That's also my answer, but that's why I play chaotic neutral, because
Yeah, exactly.
it's the easiest way to describe I have no idea what's coming out of my mouth next, so get ready.
I typically play characters in the good spectrum, but most of the ones that I've made are chaotic good, because I think that's the most interesting of the entire.
I'm with Joel. When the ends justify the means, and it doesn't matter what, as long as you're sticking to a code. That's kind of how I generally end up playing my characters as well.
Yeah, I tend to go with neutral good, just because I don't care how we get there, as long as we're doing good. But I also agree with the statement that alignments are like an arbitrary, unless you're a paladin and it makes a difference.
Right, but then it's
But then it doesn't.
Your oath. Yeah, it's your oath that you're even keeping to, not even necessarily your alignment, which is why it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because I actually, in the first game that Trevor ever, oh, he's under me on my screen. In the first game Trevor ever DM'd, I have a chaotic evil paladin. And she's beautiful, and I love her so much.
Yeah.
I've tried to play lawful good as a paladin. I've mentioned this before in the past on older episodes, but I've tried to play a character that was based on 1980s She-Ra, and it was a disaster. I couldn't do it. I was like, this is too goody two-shoes for me. Like, I'm a fairly clean-cut kind of person, and even that was like, yeah, no, this is not happening.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of DMing, and when I see somebody come to the table with either a lawful good or a lawful evil character, that's like a huge warning sign for me for a lot of reasons, because a lot of times generally it just creates infighting in the group. So I try and work with the player to say, okay, what's your direction, and not worry so much about the alignment as what's their end goal and how can we get everybody on board with it or not. But it just depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things that I learned too, that I was like, alignment doesn't really matter unless it's like integral to your character build. But as long as what you're doing doesn't affect your party in a negative way, you kind of have free reign for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, especially in 5th edition, like, going back to the paladin, yeah, like the two ways that I play the paladin, generally speaking, are I either play them as a first responder, so more of a paramedic, combat medic type of character, other than like a cop.
Yeah.
Or I very specifically play the character of Benton Fraser from a TV show called Due South, which is all about a Canadian Mountie who ends up being stationed in Chicago, trying to fight crime down there. And
that's a deep cut. I'm just saying.
I encourage everyone to look that up. Due South.
It's actually a really good show.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
That's generally the paladin I try to go for.
I gotta get a note. I always have to have a notebook, and I didn't get one this time.
Uh-oh.
There it is. There it is. Okay. There's always a notebook for tales because we get so many good suggestions.
I know, we really do.
I'm trying
This
to think.
is a colored pencil, and I'm just going to use it.
Go for it.
Was it 3 seasons?
Yeah, you had managed to squeak out a third season.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
That is a great deep cut.
I'm gonna need you to send me the name for that later so I can watch it.
Oh, it's okay. I take notes. I'll put it in chat.
Sweet.
Last time, I think we had like a half a page of TTRPGs.
I should seriously start suggesting that guests like bring a notebook just in case.
Bring your text doc so we can put it in the show notes.
Right?
Yes.
I actually am keeping a text document right now, so that's perfect.
As long as there's not like an exam or a test at the end, I think we're good. I can't handle this.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to like assign a moderator just to listen to the show, like, and make sure that we get all of this stuff. Like if somebody says like, oh, I want to come back and reference that later, you know, we'll have to get on that.
My cursor's still stuck on the My Little Pony Ravenloft mashup.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I will drop the form in chat for anybody who hasn't heard. Ray Mayhem is going to be DMing on this channel a My Little Pony in Ravenloft game, and we are currently looking to fill 2 seats. Applications are open, and you can. Let's see. Here is the link. There we go. So if anybody's interested in playing as a My Little Pony, complete with your own cutie mark of your own design, you can fill out that Google form, and we will get in touch. And we don't have a set date, but it's looking to run for about 8 weeks. We don't have a set start date yet. So anyway,
I can't wait to watch that. It's going to be amazing.
I think it really is.
I wouldn't want to play, but I'm definitely gonna have to watch it. That sounds ridiculous.
I will play, or I will apply to play if there is no Curse of Strahd spoilers. That's the only requirement for me.
Well, there is a comment section, so you can go ahead and leave a comment in there, and then Ray
will.
can determine whether or not that will work.
I'll do it later. I was
Okay.
gonna do it now, but I figured that would be unprofessional.
Kind of in the middle of the show here, dude.
Just like, screw it. This is more important.
Right? So Dev Makes Things had a great question. Hi, Dev. The first question that Dev had is, have you ever had a campaign that accidentally ended up becoming an evil campaign?
Sweet Criminals and Evil campaign, Nicole.
I was just
Technically
thinking, I'm
evil.
like, does that count? Because we are called the Sweet Criminals, but also no. Yeah. So one of the campaigns that we play with Dev, Trevor, and I, where our party's called the Sweet Criminals because this is the one, and I've mentioned before, where it's 2 tieflings and then a literal bear. Trevor plays Bearsley. Baron
Bearsley Brown Fur of Barrington.
He's a literal bear.
Yeah.
Anyway, but when we had to break out of prison. We blew up a bridge. Bearsley killed a guard with a cabbage. Like,
Wait, I have questions. With a cabbage?
Okay.
Anything can be used as a ranged implement. I'm just
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we break out of the jail. We are trying to escape the jail, and we find this cabbage salesman who's I think he was a Fearbolg.
yeah.
And we convince him to let us hide in his cart, which how he hid this 900-pound bear is incredible. But so they're taking us through town, and then they're like, "So am I going to get paid for this?" And we're like, no. And so he just leaves the cart. So we decide, all right, the guards are approaching us now. Let's just go. So Bearsley sticks his paw down through the bottom of the cart and just pushes us forward. And it's this cart chase through the city of guards shooting crossbow bolts at us and whatnot. And there's 3 guards on a bell tower. And I'm like, can I try to throw a cabbage and hit him? And Dev is like, yeah, sure, it'll be at disadvantage. I double nat 20'd. I rolled 6 nat 20s this session as well.
Wow.
I double nat 20'd, and he's like, yeah, okay, so the cabbage hits one of them in the back of the head, bounces off the bell, and hits the second guy into the third guy, and they all fall off the top of the tower. Yeah, it was nuts. And that's come up later on as a joke, because the way that his world works is he's run several different parties, one shots. Luna's played in one of them in his own homebrew world, and so I've played I think 8 characters in Vima in his world. And there's always like little meta jokes or side jokes to like other campaigns and stuff. And there was this I forget, was that part of the time thing in our normal one where it
was part of when we did Sweet Imperials one shot.
Yeah, we played the Imperials, which is the group that was tracking our normal party, and it was like there was a funeral going on for the 3 men who were killed with a cabbage off of the top of the tower. Yeah,
I would like to point out, Dev says they had families, Vertrox.
that was brought up. It was.
I would like to point out that Trevor just said he wanted to hit them. He didn't say he wanted to kill them.
Yeah, that was all. That
was on Dev.
Well, and then
I'm kidding. I love you, Dev.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
None of this makes it sound like you're inherently evil, though.
And
that's kind of what the question was, has your campaign turned?
It just depends on another thing about the alignment. Who's considering, because we are enemies of the state.
Yeah, the Empire hates us.
Oh, the Empire hates us. And there's also that dragon cult that hates us now. And then there's the 2 bounty hunters that we're currently fighting. And then it
would be easier to enumerate who doesn't hate you at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much. We are pure chaos. And it's great.
Oh, no.
I sort of have to put the hard line at if we're not talking about campaigns run when I was in my teens, because inherently every campaign run by like 12, 13, 14-year-olds is inherently an evil campaign. We just are. Like, it's they have that is where the term murder hobo comes from. So leaving that behind, excluding my teen years, no, I've never had a campaign that actually turned into like we're the heroes, and then wait a minute, are we the bad guys?
I echo that, actually, unless you're talking about playing the actual RPG Murder Hobos, which is a lot of fun, since that's the actual, track of that game. I've never also. I'm trying to think of one where it even came close, and most of the time, for me personally, when I play video games, I'm the one that always does the good playthrough first, and then maybe if I want to play the game more, I might dabble into the bad playthrough and get halfway through and be like, I can't do this. But it tends to be that most of my friend group, that most of the folks that play D&D with me are that way for the most part as well, and so it very rarely do I have somebody who's like, unless that's a character. Once in a while, this will come up. Like, I have had characters in the past that had less than scrupulous motives for doing something, but then eventually the group kind of convinced them that what they were doing, once they found it, they kind of guided them back toward the path of the right. And I'm not saying you can't have bad characters or campaigns, because that's interesting too, but just for my group of friends, generally that doesn't happen.
The guy who I can play an evil. I always set out to play the evil pathway in like a computer game or something like that. Until I have to be mean to a child or a dog, and then I'm like, nope, I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm a new man. I just can't. For some reason, I just can't do it. I can't be mean to a pixel a child or dog.
I feel
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if it counts, but the very first and technically the only time I've DM'd the party completely missed by their own actions. They completely missed an entire plot line that I set up for them, and they ended up. It never. The campaign never ended. Like, we didn't actually come to a proper conclusion. But they ended up working for the bad guys without knowing because of explicitly because of the actions that they made. I wouldn't call them evil, just ignorant, but it's as close as I've ever gotten to an evil campaign.
Now, are we allowed to talk about like related video game kind of stuff like
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
similar? Okay, because right now we are doing. We've been doing this playthrough of Divinity: Original Sin 2, which if you guys have
that game.
never played it, it's like the best non-TTRPG that's like a TTRPG on consoles and PCs in like the last 25 years.
Yeah.
But I have logged, I'm not joking, over 1,000 hours into it before we started this campaign. And so on this campaign, I am actually being the murder hobo, and we're like killing all the guards, killing all the prisoners, everyone for XP, because we all know what's coming up and where we want to be at power wise. So that's really the closest I can think of to the only time I've ever done that in any game ever is this actual live stream
Yeah.
that we're doing right now. So that's, that's probably the worst I've ever been in any game. And it's funny because I've got a one guy who had stepped away from D&D for like 20 years and came back, and this was kind of his reintroduction into role-playing and that type of style of game. And he was very appalled that we were just murdering everyone.
Oh no!
For everything.
Oh no!
But at the same time, it only took him like half an hour to get on board and cooperate in doing it too. So there's that also.
When you said murder hobo, I suddenly remembered that Trevor and I actually do play in an evil version of a campaign in Vima, but more of like one shots, because we played these brother kobolds named Vernder, and they are actually evil. And I intentionally murder hoboed a goblin just standing outside of a shop.
No.
Because the adrenaline was so high that we had just like stolen something from a Rakshasa, and we were like
Multiple
yeah!
Rakshasas who ran a library.
Yeah. And we stole something, and so the adrenaline was so high that Dev described a goblin outside of the shop, and I was like, magic missile!
Like, yeah, magic missile.
And I was like, wait. And so at the end of the one shot, but will turn into probably a mini campaign because they're the best characters.
Oh, they're so dumb.
We got invited. Oh, they're so dumb. We got invited to the Villainous Society in one of the cities. And I think it's because I murder hoboed a random goblin. That nothing ever just happens with Vima. So it'll come back to haunt me.
Yeah.
I had a game years ago. It wasn't so much that the campaign turned evil, but one of the players, I don't remember exactly what happened. Like, this is well over 10 years ago at this point, but one of the players ended up swearing his allegiance to Bane, and basically like turned against the entire party, and we were like, what? So our final battle ended up being a PvP.
Oh wow,
Yep.
that's.
So that was really fun, though. It was really cool, and of course, like my character got their butt kicked because it was one of the first D&D games I'd ever played, and the guy that had his character swore allegiance to Bane was like had been playing since he was like 2, So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. That was interesting. Go ahead.
We're not allowed to ask questions.
Oh
to the
no, you
panel,
absolutely are.
Oh, do it.
So I'm curious what everyone's first experience with TTRPGs is.
Mine was, it's always kind of been in my periphery, and I never jumped onto it. I had friends who played and other things like that. But my first experience with TTRPGs was jumping into Nicole's home campaign when COVID first hit. And so my girlfriend was playing in it with some of her friends, and my girlfriend was like, "Why don't you ask Nicole if you can join?" And so I asked Nicole, and she was like, "Yeah." So I made a character based off of a joke that I made a long time ago, and I'm still playing that character to this day. I actually have my sister got a commission of that character made, and it looks really nice. But yeah, that was my first experience was because of Nicole.
That's awesome.
Yeah, mine was, so technically it was podcast because when I got promoted into the job that I have now, I was bored listening to music, so I asked a friend to recommend podcasts, and they recommended some ones that I didn't like, but then they also recommended the Adventure Zone, and so that got me into TTRPGs. So the first time I got to play was a couple months later, around my birthday. One of the local game stores was doing a Dungeons and Dragons and Drinks event at a local bar. And so they had like 6 different tables running one shots. And so another friend of mine and I went down there, and the DM, we were just talking about this on Twitter. The DM gave us inspiration if we bought him drinks. And then handed us blank character sheets and said, "You wake up in a jail cell and have no idea who you are." And it was fabulous. I mean, it was the best time.
That would be so cool.
And then my first campaign didn't go that well, but I dragged Trevor along for that one too, just because I couldn't suffer alone. And then,
Oh, that one.
yes. But yeah, Dungeons and Dragons and Drinks when we were allowed to go to bars and stuff.
Damn. The first time I played D&D was when it was first introduced to me, like 3 years ago max. I haven't had any experience with anything but 5e. But my DM was running a campaign, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I would just be like, "This is a vague idea of what I want," and then he would be like, "Just do this and do that." But I ended up playing a rogue bard with like homebrew spells. It was a disaster because like it was his own world with his own rules. Most of the plot was just us going to random places, fighting a bunch of monsters, and being saved by the DM's characters that were like super powerful ancient warriors, and we were just messengers for these guys. It was fun, but it was so bad. It was a good time.
What about you, Brent?
So my first time gaming, I was 10 years old. We were at the public library, and there was a notice on the bulletin board advertising that one of the librarians was going to be like teaching and running this new game called Dungeons and Dragons. And I am still a huge sci-fi and fantasy nerd. And at that age, I was reading a bunch of Knights of the Round Table and Robin Hood and all the rest of it. So I was just like, "Yep, this seems exactly what I want to do." And so I convinced my mom to let me go back when they were running the games, and pretty much never looked back. That was 42 years ago. So it's been a blast the entire time. And I mean, I almost never like to bring up how long I've been gaming, because I know there's a lot of people out there that use their sort of time in the hobby as like a cudgel to gatekeep and be like, well, I've been gaming for X number of years, so this is why your
Back in
fun's
my
wrong.
day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and the people I always tell, I think I always say is like the only thing that I can say for certain after being like playing Dungeons and Dragons for so long, is that I can guarantee you that in any game or in any campaign, I will boldly decide to do something in my turn based on rules that existed in a previous edition of the game. And only only in the moments when the DM reminds me that actually that's not a thing in this edition will I discover that my character is in a world of trouble. So that is what I have found anyway. That is the benefit of having played that long. Yeah.
Well, I actually very much mirror you. 10 years old. My parents were divorced. I went to go stay with my dad, and my stepbrother ran me through my very first campaign. I was playing a rogue, a thief at the time, and in second ed AD&D, and I made it to the wizard at the end of the module, and he killed me, and I cried for like
Oh,
like days. Yeah, no, it was really bad because I was 10 years old. I didn't know any better. I was really upset because my character died. But yeah, and then I never touched it again until college. And then once I got into college, there was no D&D at that point. It was really at a lull. So it was Rifts, it was World of Darkness, it was Street Fighter, it was, you name it. There were so many different things. And so I do the exact same thing you were talking about, but generally it's with different rules systems where I'm like, oh, I can totally, oh no, I can't do that. And then I die. But it's fun. Go ahead.
I've absolutely done that too. I dropped what was it? Playing Gamma World, and I dropped like a D&D rule into the middle of the game, and the game master's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like,
well, I'm really
right.
glad you brought up that point about people using their experience as a cudgel, because I think that's one of the things that I have a great group of friends, and luckily all of us are very inclusive and try to invite people in, especially those that are just getting started in the hobby, where I think if you really make a concerted effort to try and promote that, that's more important than flaunting your knowledge of rules or any of that type of thing, because that's going to make an environment that everybody enjoys to play in. And I think that's a really important point. I'm glad you brought that up.
That's actually one of the things that I was most hesitant about when I first got into the tabletop world, because it was just me, my one friend who knew how to play, and like 3 other people who didn't actually know how to play. It was just us, and then I started following people on Twitter, and it was like all of these people have been playing for so much longer than me. I saw plenty of like casting calls and things that I just did not apply to, because I barely know the difference between a bard and a wizard, or why a sorcerer is not also a wizard. But like it wasn't until like I actually started interacting with a lot of the community that I was like, okay, maybe it's not as scary as it looks like from the outside.
I think social media can be a disaster at times. But I think for the most part, in my experience, and I know this isn't true for everyone, but in my experience, it's been more of a good thing for the TTRPG community than not, because it's opened up people to more of those other players and DMs who are like, yeah, come on in, like I'd love to have you play at my table or whatever it may be, when locally you may not have that. And so
Right.
I think I think in that regard it's been really, really nice for people that are in a similar position to you, who are just starting out and like, I want to get to know more, but I don't know where to start, or I don't have anybody nearby that wants to play, or any, like, I grew up not playing TTRPGs, really not gaming at all. I didn't start really gaming until I was in my early 20s, and I didn't start playing TTRPGs until I was 26 or 27. And so 16 years ago, something like that. I can't math right now, but so it's, I think now I have found the TTRPG community to be a much more open and welcoming place with sort of the development of social media.
I will say... All right, go ahead.
Sorry. I would not even be playing TTRPGs if it wasn't for the Twitter community, because the first campaign I was in was so bad that had I not known that good people existed out there, I would not be playing TTRPGs. But also, I only started in 2019. Yeah, I've only been playing for like 2 years. And the community has just been amazing with all of that. I loved him so much.
I think it's interesting, and one of the reasons I asked this is because when I owned a comic shop, we owned a comic and gaming store, and we would actually encourage people to come in and watch the games as other people were playing, obviously respectfully. But that was the way that most of the people who wanted to, like if there was a DM that wanted to run a game, they'd actually pick people out of the audience that weren't already playing and start a new game with them. And so that was kind of the way we fostered that, because there was no Twitter community at that point, because this was in 2005. So, I mean, that was one of the ways that we did it at our shop. And I always like to hear how different people approach the, getting started with it. And I think it's amazing that social media can lead itself to that in this day and age. That's awesome. And anyone watching knows you can play. It doesn't matter if you don't understand the rules. There's people to help you. Please play if you want to play.
Absolutely.
Please
doesn't even
play.
need to be D&D. Doesn't even need to be D&D. There's so many systems out there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things that I always tell people when I get the question, or when the question comes up of how do I get started in D&D, and I always say it may not be D&D. Like, that may not be the system for you, but that doesn't mean tabletop isn't for you. It just means D&D is not the right system for you. But, there's so many great ones out there, like way more than I could ever think to mention. And they play to different people's strengths and weaknesses. You just have to find the one you like and the one that, lets you tell the story you want to tell.
Yeah, I always like to compare D&D to pizza, because
Yeah.
D&D is exactly like pizza. You can add and you can take away and you can combine it, but at the end of the day, it's still pizza. You can, maybe you don't like pizza, you like salads, or you like burritos, or you like, I don't know, onigiris or whatever. And I've actually learned a lot about that recently, because I had the opportunity to be in a charity. I don't know. It was a charity live stream, but it was also the last 2 episodes of Latinx game. I don't remember the system. I think the system we were using was Pasiones or something like that. And it was just like redoing like a telenovela kind of thing. And there was no combat, and it was a completely different system. And it was so much fun just to be able to just role play the hell out of some dramatic scenarios with a bunch of awesome people. And like, I wouldn't have been able to get that with D&D, just because it's so different.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that. That's cool.
I think that's one of the things out of the TTRPG community on Twitter that I am just gobsmacked by, is how many systems are being published today between Kickstarter and people doing it, bootstrapping and doing it on their own. It's amazing. We're like, just like video games, we're living in a golden age for TTRPGs because there's so much choice out there of what you might want to play. It's amazing.
And it's not...
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and it's not a new one, but I just got introduced to Blades in the Dark because Trevor's running a campaign in that. And oh my gosh, it's different, and I like it.
Yeah,
and
it's also not a great system for first-time DMs, and I'm a fledgling DM, so...
Oh, no.
I was going to say, too, that it doesn't even have to be like this huge 100-page, 200-page system you know, it can be a little 1-2 pager. It can be, you know, Honey
Honey
Heist,
Heist.
or anything like
Yes.
that.
Go look at Grant Howitt's like backlog of friggin' one page
I love.
Yeah.
I got to play Honey Heist last weekend for the first time, and I loved it.
Yep,
So good.
I watched that actually. I was lurking in chat. But yeah, it just anything like that. We're gonna be here on this channel. We're still working on confirming the date, but we just did our session 0 for a little, you know, like a 4-page system that somebody wrote. You know, it wasn't really published. He was just like, hey, this is a thing that I wrote. And we were like, great, let's play it, you know? And so it's going to be like just this hilarious time. I mean, one of the things that he has is literally a table that you roll the style of your hat on. And so one of the characters that I made is going to be wearing a tan hat with a rounded top and a studded brim with a feather. Totally random.
That's
yes,
funny.
I
I
may have
love
ordered a
that.
hat to actually make that. So,
I love that.
but yeah, like
though.
just silly stuff
Awesome.
like that. You know, it's so much fun, and I really truly think there's a system out there for everyone. You just have to find it.
Yep. For sure.
All right.
Agreed.
Okay. Let's see. So we'll backtrack a little bit with this question, but Dev had a couple other questions, and this one
Dev is trolling us.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he is.
Sorry, y'all.
I told you he was.
So this question is, what vegetable would be your first choice of murder weapon and why? Please use examples.
I already answered that question, so
Vegetable. I've got-
Vegetable.
hold
It's
on, I
not
need
quite.
to- I need
It's
to
not quite
Google
PG, but I'd have to say
translation
eggplant. Just for the implications.
oh man.
Probably a carrot, sharpened to the point of to steak.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like
That's the
it.
best I got. I'm sorry.
No, I like it.
No, it's good because at least you remembered carrot. As soon as the question came, I forgot every vegetable that existed.
Apple.
Carrot.
Apple.
I had to.
Is
to be fair,
apple?
I had to
Yeah,
Google
Right.
whether a carrot was a vegetable because I'm my main language is Spanish. Okay, I have a valid
Yeah,
reason.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
had to be like, wait a minute, is it though?
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm literally going through like, okay, what do I have for vegetables in my fridge right now that I could kill somebody with? And I'm like, I have cut up pieces of carrots, and I have some celery, and I got nothing.
I have a cucumber. Can I kill? Will that work?
It's a bludgeoning
Oh,
weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just thought of like 6 ways to kill someone with cucumbers. So please don't leave me unsupervised.
I'm on a watch list.
Just do the ash thing from Alien. You can pretty much kill anyone with anything.
I really don't even get cucumber. I bought cucumber to see if my cats would eat it because that cat on TikTok eats it.
Oh man.
It definitely is not a vegetable, but if I had to pick something to use as a murder weapon that's not a typical murder weapon, an icicle.
Oh, I was just gonna say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
No murder weapon. We probably
Exactly.
shouldn't be promoting those types
No,
of
we
things.
really shouldn't be.
I'm just saying. I agree wholeheartedly. It's
We're
the best
all on a
weapon.
watch list now.
If we can
Right?
choose things that aren't
I was already there, it's
probably-
Hi, NSA.
I would probably go for an invisible dagger of some sort, since we're talking about non-vegetables now.
Yeah.
Just transparent. Just nobody can see it. Nobody knows that.
Right?
It's there.
I'd probably go for a potato.
You could
they're good
absolutely,
ra-
do some damage with that.
You can do a
Good
lot with
range
potato.
weapon.
That's for me.
Yeah, potato guns are definitely a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
Oh yeah.
Put them in the freezer for a little bit so they
Oh,
get nice and hard. And then, yeah, it's just like throwing a rock.
Just put it in a sock.
Could write a whole poem.
Well, Dev did say that he wanted examples. He's got them.
There you go, Dev.
I know. And you know what? This is going to come back in like 3 months to haunt us.
We're gonna
Just
fight a
because-
gang of people who are using vegetable weapons
Well,
at
next
some point in
town
the
we go
campaign.
to, we're going to be chased out.
With
Oh,
We're going to be
potato
chased
cannons.
out by people with potato cannons.
Dev would like to know, what about avocados?
Is that a
Depends.
vegetable?
Is it a vegetable?
Oh,
To
no.
Google.
I heard that pun. And, are avocados a vegetable?
I don't know. Quick, to the internet.
It's just
To the Google.
reminded me of there's now
Technically,
a
they are fruits.
this
Yeah,
just
they-
reminded me
Thought.
there's now
According to
something
Google.
medically known as avocado hand, which is when someone stupidly tries to take the seed out of an avocado, but stabs it through into
Oh.
their hand.
Oh,
Yeah, that is like a medical term now, apparently.
that's terrible.
Yeah, it's real
Understandable,
bad.
but still terrible.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh. People, stop. Yeah, it's technically a fruit, but it's
Yeah.
also it was listed on vegetable of the month, so it's like a tomato.
It's like a tomato. Nobody really knows.
I do know a few people I can kill with avocados because they're allergic.
I'm sorry, hold on. David Tilstra, are you saying that you stabbed your hand while trying to get the seed out of an avocado?
It is a very David Tilson thing to do.
Yeah.
He could be saying that he's killed someone allergic to avocados too.
He's done that many
Yes.
times.
Yeah, he's done that many times.
Ah.
Either way, they're confessing to a crime.
Yeah, we might
either
want
way.
to.
I like the answer was yes with no
Yes.
clarification.
clarification.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, yeah.
That's
Right.
it. That's all he can admit to, because
Fantastic.
anything else would be self-incriminating.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now.
Wow.
Okay, so Dev's next question, definitely a trolley question, but I'm running with it anyway. How many toes is too many toes, and do boots even actually need soles?
Oh my god. That one's for Nicole.
No, boots don't need soles. It's just a fashion statement. Next question.
We will not be taking further questions at this time.
Yes.
Oh my god, Dev. You're ridiculous.
So I actually, this was something that I posted on Twitter the other day, so I'm gonna throw it out at you guys. Neckel, I'm pretty sure you saw it because I think I remember you answering this. And chat, I want you guys to play along with this too. I threw a game out there that I came up with while I was driving home from work the other day, where I wanted people to take a song title and a spell and mash them together and create a new spell.
I did do
Oh.
this.
So the one that I came up with was Dissonant Whisper and Careless Whispers, and it came up with Careless Whispers. And basically the idea was that the target now can only hear the sound of an off-key saxophone solo, and they now have to basically drop everything and spend all their time trying to find it.
And the one I came up with was Dancing in the Moonbeam,
That was a good one.
where a 5-foot radius spotlight comes down, and you are, I don't remember what I said, you're frozen in place or something. You take damage. You take 2d10 radiant damage unless the player gets up and performs 6 seconds worth of dance moves. And if the DM deems that they're acceptable dance moves, the damage gets reduced.
So I think
I-
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna complain that I have nothing.
I don't normally play spellcasters, and when I do, I just kind of look at the spell list, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds cool. So I can't. I just can't think of any spells off the top of my head.
That's right. Patch gave us a really good one. It was Ring of Fire plus Fireballs, so you ended up with Ring of Fireballs.
Ooh, that's oh no.
So I'm worried again, dating myself, that no one will know the song, but Mr. Sandman from like the 19.
Oh, I know that song.
Oh, of course we know that
I
song.
know that.
So it would have to be Mr. Sandman and Sleep for Sandman Sleep, and the spell would
Yes.
be that you can actually make them dream what you want them to dream, but it has no other effects, no damage, no anything. But you could theoretically just keep doing that to somebody over and over again, either to drive them insane or try and implant a suggestion or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be my thought.
I like that.
All I could think of was welcome to the Black Parade and just welcome to the Magnificent Mansion.
Yes.
Nice.
But instead of just being a regular mansion, it's just black and emo. That's all I got.
My Chemical Romance theme.
Yeah, unfortunately,
You create a
Don't
goth
have-
club in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
you
Love
open the
that.
door and all you hear is ding.
Yeah.
Wait, 4 reasons. I have the entire thing of druid spells. Don't ask why I've got all these druid spells. I'm a druid, that's
I
why.
will ask why.
So now I'm going to look at these druid spells and see if I can come up with another one. No, it's because I wanted to make some spell cards for myself for just a craft project.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that's always a good thing to have on hand.
But
Ray
it is.
Mayhem just said in chat, I prefer Enter Sandman Sleep, better base.
Ooh.
That's fair. That's fair.
Oh, David said, all you need is love, and Otto's irresistible dances. All you need is dance.
Huh. Interesting. I like the actually I think Nekla added an item into the campaign that allowed us to do this, which was you change a single letter in the
Oh, that wasn't original though.
spell.
I stole it
know.
from someone.
I know you stole it from someone, but you changed a single letter in the spell and it changes the effects of the spell. So you either add a letter or change it
Yes.
or remove one. I like
Adventure
that.
Zone, TM, TM, TM.
Yeah, yeah.
Would that troll dyslexic people though?
A little bit. A little bit. But also it's like, there was an example that somebody did because Seth and Cheaper by the Dungeon also included it in his campaign, the Ring of the Grammarian. But I called it something
Adam kept
else.
using it like way too well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I love changing the one letter of spells. I haven't thought of anything good. I'm just sitting here reading on stream.
Yeah, I got nothing
You,
for that.
Well, do
this
I-
is the part where
Dev-
you all realize I have terrible music taste.
Dev wrote the
Oh, so do
Friends
I.
theme, and so of course all I can think of now is I'll be there for animal friendship.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I did see there's animal friendship, there was charm person, or just the friends cantrip.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be bad. I don't like I have feelings about about the friends cantrip. Oh, your mind sliver? Haha, that's good.
Now that you mention that, I don't like charm type magic. The entire enchantment
Oh,
line of
enchantment
spells
is
in
the-
D&D. I can justify necromancy. There's just no way I can justify taking over somebody's.
Necromancy is just biological
It's
recycling.
just
Like, that's
recycling.
just-
That's all it is.
It's just
Yeah, for sure.
procrastinated
Yeah.
healing.
Like I have
it's just a doctor who arrived late. Like it's
Yeah.
I have a character who is a necromancer, and the whole thing about her is that she uses necromancy to give families like a final solid proper farewell
Aww.
and to
Nice.
help the people who weren't able to help their families help them after the fact. But like there's just no good way to use charm magic for the benefit of like it's so
Yeah.
icky. Like
I
I-
100% understand why they put it in the game initially, because it's such a big part of like fantasy literature and like fairy
Yeah.
tales and things like that. That the fairy prince comes along and charms you, and you all that sort of stuff. But when you're actually playing a game and you start to think about like, yeah, I'm taking over this person's mind. or what's the one where you basically just erase 10 minutes of their memory?
Modify memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah,
funny
no,
story about that spell.
That doesn't fly in my book.
Like, that's all. That's, yeah. If I ran a D&D campaign again, that would be the big bad evil guy would not be a necromancer. It'd be that really charming guy who just gaslights and uses charm spells and modify memory, and yeah, that's truly evil.
Trevor has heard me because I randomly will say it in the middle of when I'm DMing. I'm like, yep, enchantment, most evil class or most evil school. Even though I use the spells, it's just the most evil.
The only time that we use it like positively or because we had to was because in Neckla's campaign, where it's this whole world where like all the humans are enslaved basically, and there's people who are working as a resistance against like the kingdom and everything, and our group is part of that. Well, there was another group that was part of that as well, that we had found that was like their own kind of solo group, but we've discovered that they were also doing the same kind of work we were. Well, one of them admitted to burning down this laboratory in front of people who weren't related to that group, and this laboratory was doing like human experiments and all this stuff. So we were like, crap, we need to protect this person. So I went with my stupid Path of Wild Magic Barbarian, Baldbeard, the belligerent, went with this other one of the NPC spellcasters who had the modify memory spell, so that we could remove the memory of that person saying that, and then she failed the first time, and I had to knock the two of them unconscious, and then frame it as it was a fight, or they got super drunk, and then they used the last like 2 or 3 casts of the spell to erase both of them hearing that, and then erase me beating them unconscious.
Just a sneak peek into my DMing style, he started that story and I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah. Like, I was looking at your camera and I was like, she has no idea what I'm talking about. I was like, she'll get it.
I remember now. It was one of those. The other two people in the party were like, yeah, he can go alone. Nothing bad could happen.
Yeah.
And then everything bad that could happen happened.
Even in that instance, it wasn't like something that we were like, oh yeah, it's just something we're going to do. It's like, no, we have to do it this way. We have to use this spell, you know? So.
Yeah.
For a very similar reason, when I run Call of Cthulhu games, I don't use the sanity rules. I've never really liked them. And the idea that you would suddenly contract their list actual like mental health conditions, and the idea that you would just suddenly contract a mental health condition because you're encountering the unknown, I mean, yeah, it just never sat right with me. So what I've always done is, they're fear checks. You are encountering something that is just so earth-shatteringly awful that you have to roll to see if you can handle staying close to it and dealing with it, or whether you're just going to run away. And then I always let the player sort of decide what that looks like. So if you fail, then tell me what that looks like for you. But I would rather that than like rolling on one of their tables and having them just like, well, congratulations, you have schizophrenia. And it's
Right.
like, well,
Yeah. In Blades in the Dark, actually, there's a whole stress system as well, kind of similarly, where if your stress builds up to a certain level, you get a trauma, but the player gets to choose what that trauma is, and it doesn't have a mechanical effect on them. It has an RP effect on them, and if they decide to play to that trauma, they get experience for it. So it's nothing that affects their character mechanically. It's just an RP thing that can actually help you get more experience.
The Mothership science fiction horror game has a very similar thing where they use a stress track, where you gain stress, a la Aliens and things like that. That type of, or Event Horizon, if that's your type of science fiction horror. But you can also stress can allow you to do things because you are at a heightened, a heightened level of alertness, a heightened level of physicality. So there's a balancing act of how much stress is good for you and how much is too much stress. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to pause the conversation here so we can take a quick break. And when we come back,
damn, it's been an hour.
It's been an hour.
Yes.
When we come back, David Tilstra, I see your question. We'll start with that when we come back from the break. So we will see you in just a few minutes. back from our break, and hope you all had a good break. We all did. We were discussing dice and buying dice by the pound or by the jug or all of that good stuff during the break, and showing off our dice jars and
I don't have a
about-
problem. You have a problem.
Yeah. And talking about all of the dice that we had within arm's reach of where we were currently sitting. So that was how our break went. Ray, I see your question, so we will start with that one, because Ray redeemed an Ask My Question next. So Ray's question is, what was a time when another player made a choice that later inspired you as a player yourself?
I've probably got 100 answers for this, but I'm going to share what happened last week in our session because it was the coolest moment I've ever had in a TTRPG. Trevor and I were playing, and Trevor, we before the session had talked about the previous session where something very dramatic had happened and how his character was affected by it. And so he was writing something that he was going to do, like a chant. It was like a chant. It was a chant. And so I got the idea that I'm playing a bard druid and I don't sing at all. And so I got the idea that I was going to write a song, and so he performed his chant. And then a few minutes later I performed my song, and it was the most beautiful moment in a TTRPG. Because the chant and the song both had the same rhythm without even thinking about it, and it was really cool.
That's neat.
So I have one, but it needs a little explanation. My best friend Daniel and I were playing in a game which doesn't happen very often together because he's a DM, I'm a DM. Usually one of us is running and the others are involved. And we were brothers, not biological brothers, but I was an elf from the Feywild that fell through to a dwarven stronghold when I was young, and they raised me as one of their own. And so we played this entire campaign, and throughout the campaign, he became a devout cleric of the Raven Queen. And when we got to the BBEG, when we got to the big bad at the end of the campaign, the big bad threw him off a cliff, and not like a 20-foot cliff, but like a hundreds of feet cliff. He was going to die. And I always play my characters very not religious, I guess would be the best way to say that. That's my personal play style. I'm not a very religious person. I don't do that. But as he went over the cliff, he shouted at me, "She'll save me." And so I embraced that in the moment, and I uttered a prayer to the Raven Queen, and I tried to cast Face Step. And she granted me the ability to, instead of Face Step myself, Face Step him to another plane. And so that's one of the times that I really let somebody else's faith kind of influence my character's actions.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And we've been separated for 15 years, and and that's basically, I take that character to other systems and search for him there. That's how I've worked that for the last 20 years.
That's awesome.
That's
Oh,
dope,
that is
yeah.
so cool.
It really is. I can't think of anything specific, but I've had a lot of people, like I've played with a lot of other players that just their play style or something that they come up with will inspire me down the road, like, you know, for something else that I do or something that I come up with or something like that. But I don't have anything specific that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Yeah. I don't have anything that is like a character inspired, my character to do something specific. I do have occasionally, like, I game together with a group for about. They'd been together for about 11 years, and at one point, 3 members of our group didn't make it one week, so we were. I keep going, and we were doing. I think it's Against the Drow was the campaign. So we were underground fighting against the Drow a lot. And just jokingly, we said one of the players said, "How ridiculous! The other 3 players are missing this week. How ridiculous a situation can we start the next game in?"
Oh,
So
no.
that when they show up, they have absolutely no context for what is going on. How ridiculous! And I think by the end of that session, we had got it to the point where, we started the very next session, essentially trying to Trojan horse our way into the Drow stronghold. Except instead of a Trojan horse, we had a hollowed out undead mammoth. And one of the party members, who was a vampire, was trying to basically talk their way in, while the rest of us were crammed inside of this mammoth.
And I bet that smelled great.
And that is how we started the next session. So, basically they rolled up, and we were very tight-lipped about like what had happened in the previous session. And so we ate dinner together, and then we sat down to play. And the DM is like, "Okay, so it's dark, it's hot, and it smells awful." And you can hear the cleric talking to the drow. Everybody roll a stealth check. And that's how those 3 players were introduced to the very next session, and had no idea what was going on. It was glorious. But yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing, like, both of those are amazing stories, honestly.
There's nothing that like another player has done that like has inspired a specific action that I took, but one of the people that we play with, one of our players who I've been playing with for over a year now, Daphne. She's probably not watching this, but every character that she plays, like, she is spot on with the RP. We had a moment in Nekala's home game where she is confronting her adopted father, who basically like just took her whole family's fortune, everything, big evil guy, whatever, and is just shit talking him to his face. And it was one of the best. More like, damn, all of us were like, holy crap.
It was so good that I, who was playing the villain, had to be like, "Y'all, I need a moment." I am like shook. I need a moment, because it was just, she just had this whole long, almost like a monologue, but not. And I
like called him weak and everything, and like he's not even relying on his own power anymore. And he's become so weak over the years and stuff like that. Put in a much better way, but yeah, like just every time that she goes hard with the RP, and it's inspiring for sure.
Nice.
The closest I've had to something like that was in the very first campaign that I played. My rogue was a bard originally that had to turn to a life of crime after he got a girl pregnant and ended up settling with her. And he began in the process, he got himself cursed. So if his family ever saw him, they would see every single crime he's ever committed. So he had to travel to get rid of his curse, and he was like the typical aloof but sneaky, sly rogue kind of archetype. He wasn't an edgelord. No, actually, he was super upbeat and cheerful. But the kind of like a magician in a way, because if you didn't pay attention, he would probably yoink everything you have.
Yeah, all right.
But the party, this was the first game that I played. Some of the other party members were playing little girls. One of them was an actual girl playing a little girl, so it's not as creepy as it sounds, I promise. But the way that they played their characters made it wasn't intentional, and we never talked about it. But my character, they started looking to my character like a father figure, and my character started to look at the little girls like his kids. And at one point, one of our that last party member got the girls in trouble, and it was the first time one of the girls had actually gotten hurt in combat. And my character dragged that character out of a room to threaten him with death if he ever put the girls in danger again. And it was the first time that character ever showed like a really serious, like, if you fuck up again, I will murder you kind of moment. That everybody was just like, oh no. But it was because of other characters' behavior that even happened. It's one of my favorite moments from that first campaign, because I like RP. I like combat, but I love RP. Oh God.
All right. So Dev geared this question to Trevor, but I'm going to open it up to everyone. The question is, Trevor, how many dice can you see right now?
Oh no.
So there's 20 sets on the dice rack. There's several sets in the crown bag. This is just a bunch of random dice. There's a bunch of D6s. There's another set over here. There's like 4 D20s right here. There's several sets in the drawers. So easily like 30 plus sets, maybe 40.
But he doesn't have a problem. He can stop whenever he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why would you stop?
Listen, Mom and Dad, I could be doing drugs.
I can technically can't see them because they're in a box. Because I moved recently, and so my big tray of my dice jars is in the box, but they're within arm's reach so that I can reach them right now. But I technically can't see them. And then there's about 9 sets that I haven't put in jars yet. So altogether, probably close to 30 something, maybe 35.
Yeah, I'm about the same. The bulk of my dice are in my game room right now, which is behind me. It's and they're in a candy store style jar.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I just have that's where I dump the sets that are out there for anybody to use. I've got my bag of dice, and then a bunch of spares on a shelf in front of me. So
I think I figured out I have 13 sets within reach of just polyhedral sets, and then I've got another 4, 5 sets of D6s within arm's reach, and then I probably have another 10 or so in a bag that I can't reach but is in the same room as me right now.
I have one set. It's my wife's black and gold clockwork dice set within reach, but then since I do roll 20 for almost everything, I don't have any others that I can see other than the ones that I will be pre-ordering from the Pixels website, which is currently on my right screen.
Yeah.
Because it's once those come out, then I can use them in roll 20, so I totally will.
All I have is my my sets. I have a bucket, but they're in there. It's technically within reach, but the door's closed, so technically not. But I think I have 9 sets total.
I had some friends that I play games with sometimes, and they used to go to a local game shop, and they had a fish tank, like an aquarium full of random dice, and it was like 25 cents, 50 cents for a die or whatever. And so when they were playing there, one of them who always rolled like crap, he would put a $5 bill down, and every time a die wasn't rolling the way he wanted it to, he would toss it back into the fish tank, and he'd go and he'd get another dice out of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This dice set is within reach, and I'm going to brag about it because it's cute. So I got my slim vault from Loot Tables. They had their Kickstarter, and it perfectly fits their healing potions.
I got mine too.
Oh, look at that.
And so it's a healing potion with a whole bunch of D4s in it. And it's got the list of how healing potions work. But they fit perfectly into my little dice vault that's got somewhere on it. It's got my name and everything. So
Excellent.
So sick.
That's awesome.
I have a healing potion from Arcane Spectacles.
you got one of them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's next on my list because
So,
their
yeah.
dice,
So
their healing potions are so cute.
Yeah, there's 4d4 that come in it. And, yep. Super cute little.
Oh yeah, I technically have extra d6s because I'm playing in a Dragon Age tabletop game on Sundays.
I love the Dragon Age tabletop
or
game.
some- It's so complicated though.
I mean, every
Had to-
system is complicated when you first start.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
I needed to have like 5 or 6 different instances of the PDF open just to be able to make my character.
Different pages opened on
Yeah.
them.
there's like this is the character class, but the abilities are on like 30, 40 pages later, and like then those things reference things that were like 30 pages further than that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the
it had,
layout's
like-
not great.
It's a great tabletop. It is so confusing. It's so complex.
Okay, so Press X to Jump came in with another Ask My Question next, so we'll move to that one. And their question is, if your favorite TTRPG character was in a movie, which actor would you want to play your character?
Danny DeVito. I'm playing a halfling wizard.
Amazing.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that tracks.
Internet is one. We can go home now.
Yep.
He doesn't look anything like my character, but I don't give a shit. I just Danny DeVito, hands down. It's fine.
I have to think on this one for a minute.
Yeah, I'm also thinking.
I'm trying to think of what the not obvious answer is, and that's the problem.
I already took the most obvious answer, obviously. We can all answer Danny DeVito, though. I'm fine with that. We can share.
So not my favorite TTRPG character, like that I played, but one of them who actually was from the crappy campaign that me and Nicole were in. We're bringing those characters back into Dev's world later on this week. We're playing a game and we're bringing our old characters back. And so I played Drinkerbell, he was a gnome illusion wizard, and he was ridiculous. And I think if he was in a movie, Warwick Davis should play him.
Actually, now that it's been brought up, I really think Danny DeVito should play.
Yeah, he would fit too, but
It's okay. We can share.
yeah,
There's enough
we can
Danny
share.
DeVito for all of
There's
us.
enough Danny DeVito to go around.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm at a loss, so I keep going. I'm going to Google actresses.
So mine's an elf, and the stereotypical answer would be the guy that played Legolas. But I think David Bowie would be a good choice too.
Oh.
Actually,
Ooh, yeah.
David
I mean-
Bowie would be an amazing elf.
there was no restrictions on time of when it, obviously, so that's not feasible for right now. But if I can pick anybody I'd pick David Bowie.
Great choice.
I did just. Okay, so my tiefling journey, my druid bard, the other tiefling in the campaign, played by our friend Daphne, is Chiron, and it's Journey's cousin. And I don't know why it just popped into my head that Tina Fey and what did I say?
Amy Poehler.
Amy Poehler.
Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
And Journey would be Amy Poehler, and Chiron would be Tina Fey. And I just decided that I don't know why that popped in my head, but it is now the funniest thing I've thought of all day.
And Bearsley would be Jack Black.
Oh my god,
my
seriously.
God.
Now, I do have to ask because I'm noticing the trend. Are all your characters alliterative with the letter B?
Oh no, so it's just the two.
Okay.
It is just the two. That was the thing that the Baron Bearsley Brown fur of Barrington was just I just came up with it on the spot. And then the Baldbeard the Belligerent actually is his full name. That was just another thing that was, I don't know, it just happened that way. It wasn't even an intentional thing. I was just kind of like, oh, hey, it's just a thing now.
That I appreciate both puns and alliteration, so I really like those names.
Yeah, yes.
I think my most recent favorite character is Dr. William Lindsay from the Clockwork Vines campaign, the Call of Cthulhu campaign that Honey and Dice was running. I think Peter Capaldi, because Dr. William Lindsay is a Scottish doctor.
Yep.
And Peter Capaldi could definitely nail that down. I'd love to see him we're in an alternate universe 1880s London. So I'd love to see Peter Capaldi with like the big bushy mutton chops and the mustache and the yeah.
I think the only person that pops into mind for I played a halfling rogue ranger fighter, and this is probably a little bit of typecasting given her role in The Hobbit, but the only person that pops into my mind for my character Eda Bricks is Evangeline Lilly. So
I'm sorry, halfling rogue ranger fighter?
Yep.
How long was your character sheet?
Thankfully it was digital, so but yeah, it was a Pathfinder first edition game, so it was a good time.
Oh my gosh.
Did you say the character's name was Eat a Brick?
Eda Bricks, IDABRIX.
It's so good.
That's great.
This is dope.
I love it. I love it when characters have really dumb names, because when you get into like really serious RP moments, it's like this guy over here, friggin' Baldbeard, like in this stupid, like serious scenario. Like it's funny. Actually, Baldbeard's not his real name. He doesn't know his real name, but that's what everyone calls him, because he can't grow a beard.
I forgot I muted myself so I could type. Drinkerbell's real name is as dumb as it gets as well. Like,
yeah. Tinkerbell's real name was Bobbert, just because.
yeah, Robert.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see. We had two questions come in from David Tilstra and from Matt from Tommy, and they're very similar. So I'm gonna put them together. David's question was, when did you realize you loved TTRPGs? And then to go on top of that, Tommy's question was, is there one defining moment that you experienced that made you fall in love with TTRPGs?
Oh, hell yeah.
For me, like when I first started playing, it took me a little bit to get into it, because I was like, I'm a really big fan of board games. Like under my TV, like my TV stand, I have just boxes and boxes of board games. So I'm used to having like a concrete, this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. So it took me a while to break out of that and like, oh wait, I can do basically whatever I want within reason. So it took me a little bit, and I think the moment that made me like really, really fall in love with TTRPGs was when Nekola and her home game had planned out this like probably 2 or 3 session long jailbreak that we were going to be doing. Well, Baldbeard he's an estranged noble he's estranged from his family, and he still has their family signet ring and everything. So he forged official documents to, instead of breaking this person out of prison, because we were in a different country, just forging prisoner extradition documents, and it worked. And so this thing that was supposed to probably take multiple hours over the course of multiple sessions took us like 20 minutes. And that was a moment where I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so great.
And that was the moment as a DM I realized that no matter what I do, because there were 3 levels, I had built out cool maps and like all that's it never got used. So now I barely ever build maps. I'm like, I'm not going to plan ahead. Yeah. But it was perfect because on the whatever check has to be, God, that was so long ago. Whatever check has to be made to forge documents, I think it's sleight of hand. Baldbeard got like a 22. And I was like, I mean, yeah, documents are pretty good, I guess.
And they were agreeing like pay for the damages and everything too. So it was like, even if they thought they were fake, whatever. Yeah. So that'll come to bite me in the ass later on in the campaign, but it hasn't yet. So we're good. It's been like a year.
I have not forgotten that you signed documents saying that your family would pay 15,000 gold in damages.
Oh.
I have not forgotten about this.
Who goes to collect on bears, though?
Oh,
this is a different one.
It's a different one, but
okay. Sorry.
Goodness.
Yeah, this one's Baldbeard. This is the dwarf guy.
Okay.
Dwarf.
I was gonna. Are they gonna play with salmon or?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, we got other people after the bear.
Yeah.
Not for monetary reasons, but
To be fair, they both sound like they get into about the same amount of trouble from what you've told us. So.
oh yeah,
All of our characters do. All of our characters do.
it's a thing in our with the party in Nekola's home game that she GMs. That our group will just get into like stupid arguments in public or right in front of some NPC, and the NPC is just like, "Are you guys good? Is everything cool here? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah, they constantly fight. Yeah.
I have moments relating to like D&D specifically that made me fall in love with it. But the moment I fell in love with tabletops as a whole was when I joined Pasiones. Rosas y Pistolas was what it was named, which is Spanish for Guns and Roses, which is pretty awesome. Not only was it the first time that because I wasn't going to play with them, it was last minute somebody dropped out, and they were just like, hey, you last minute, we need you, join us. And it was the first time that I had like a RP only game that ended up being 2 games. It was the first time I tried a different system. It was the first time that I played with a group that wanted to RP really like hardcore. So for most of the time I was just watching, but I was so enthralled that I forgot that I was streaming with them. And I was just like this, just watching them RP and have all of these awesome moments. And I was like, when we finished that session, I was like, I think that is going to be a cornerstone in my experience as a tabletop player. Like, I will always think back to that moment as the moment that I fell in love with, like, all of this. Sorry.
I don't know. For me, like, there's 2 separate things because for me, it is kind of 2 separate questions. There's not a moment that I can point at and say, this is what made me fall in love with it. It's always been super social for me. So that's one of my social outlets. So that's when I get to spend time with friends and have fun. And even if if I'm running something, it goes off the rails, or we're playing something and it goes off the rails, that's us just having fun together. So that's kind of what it's always been about for me. But then my favorite moment in any game is actually, much to my chagrin, one of the times that I was the worst players ever, in that I completely metagamed a moment just to mess with my DM, because the person who I had the brothers characters with, he was running a World of Darkness campaign where the big bad was a djinn, and the djinn had grown like multiple sizes. He was like 3 stories tall, and he was at the bottom of a rock quarry, and we were at the top. And he was manifesting out of the lamp, and it was basically floating in the middle of the air in the middle of this rock quarry. And this was a flashback, because he had actually started the campaign, and so we were in a flashback, and we didn't remember anything, from where we started the campaign moving forward. We didn't remember anything about the flashback. So we were actually playing the flashback. And so I already knew I existed in the future. So I just jumped off the cliff with there were no spells, there were no nothing. I just jumped off the cliff trying to grab the thing out of midair. And it was literally one of those memes where you can see him stare off in the distance and the math formulas start to flow. and surprisingly, he was like, all right, well, make these 3 rolls, and if you succeed, I guess you won't die. And I succeeded all 3 of them, and we stopped the big bad, and it was fantastic. And it was one of those things that was completely born of me being a bad player and metagaming, but at the same time just wanting to mess with him and see how he'd work his way out of it, and it worked out for everybody's effect.
You just DM your way out of this, motherfucker.
That's pretty much what it was.
That's
and
amazing.
so now in every game I've ever played with him, I do it once per game. Just I will throw myself off a building or something.
That's amazing.
And he's killed me once for doing it, but I still do it because it's funny as hell.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's great. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know if I would say that this is the moment that made me fall in love with TTRPGs, but it's definitely the moment that made me realize just how vast the possibilities are in TTRPGs. So, my best friend joined for a few campaigns in our home group before she had a kiddo and all of that stuff. And in one of the games, she played a sorceress, and we jokingly refer to her as the offensive sorceress because she was both an offensive caster. She was also extremely offensive, just the way that she talked and the things that she did and all of that stuff. So many people who have either watched the stream or listened to the VOD or the podcast version of this show have heard me refer to the bad DM. And so he was playing, he wasn't DMing this game, but he's also a pretty terrible player. Like, he's the player that will try to dictate what everybody does on their turn and that sort of thing. Just not... Like, he's a nice guy, but just not a great player, so it's really hard to want to have him at the table. So we saw this opportunity, and we seized it so hard. So we were in a city, like, a port city, and we were getting ready to leave, but it was starting to get late in the day, and so we were like, maybe we'll stay another night, we'll take the next boat out in the morning, that sort of thing. And this gorgeous woman comes up out of nowhere and starts essentially hitting on his character. Well, the offensive sorceress saw right through it and realized pretty quickly that it was a succubus. So she offered to pay for the room at the tavern, and off they went.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it was definitely one of those moments that I was like, oh my god, that's a thing that we can do. So, it probably wasn't the moment, but it was definitely a moment that has lived on in infamy in our memories, at least. So, Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So I thought of the moment that, because I was like, the second I learned them, I was in love with them. But the moment that I realized that I was going to be like 24/7, I want to be playing this, was in my first campaign. This was before Trevor joined. This was actually relatively close to the beginning. We were in a battle, just a combat, and this DM was very much everything but us was overpowered, and so every single combat felt like we were going to die, and it wasn't great. But this one, I was actually unconscious making death saves, and I was at 2 successes and 2 failures.
Ugh.
And it came around to my turn again, and we were playing voice only, so they didn't have my video, but everybody could hear me crying because I was just, I'm going to die. I love my leaf so much, and I'm going to die. And I'm the healer. Like, there was nothing that could, like, and so it was probably, my turn probably took close to 5-6 minutes of just like putting off rolling the dice, because I was afraid. I was like, I'm going to roll and I'm going to fail, and this is going to be my first ever full character, and then they're going to die. And it's just, and then I succeeded, and I didn't die. And, but I did. It was more complicated things happened, but that moment, and it was probably only 3 months into playing, and I was like, yep, this is my therapy now. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. For me, I think it was the first time I went to a convention, a tabletop gaming convention. So I started gaming, and up until the point where I was like 20 something, I lived in a place called Fort McMurray, which is like northern Alberta, northern Canada. Not quite the Northwest Territories, but we can see it. And so when I was 16, I had my chance to go to my first sort of like gaming convention outside of Fort McMurray, which is in Edmonton, which is where I live now. So it was about 5 hours away by bus. And I mean, I had read about gaming conventions in Dragon magazine, so I had like a vague idea of what they were like. And if I'm honest, looking back, like the one that I attended at Edmonton was probably nothing as big or huge as any of the ones that I read about in Dragon magazine. But for me, it was like the first convention I'd ever gone to, and it was just astounding. And I think that was the first point that I fell in love with. I knew that tabletop gaming was going to be a hobby I had for the rest of my life, because I showed up there not knowing anyone. And within minutes of arriving, we had a common language, we had common experiences, we knew, right, like we had played in the same modules, we had dealt with the same crappy GMs, we had, so we had this sort of like shared experience that just sort of brought us together. And it was all about the gaming, and we just sort of sat down and got to playing, and that was that. And I mean, I knew right then, it's like, regardless of what game we were playing, this is what I want. This is like put this in a bag, hang it up, and hook it right into my veins, because this is exactly the experience that I want from tabletop gaming. And I mean, looping it back to something we talked about earlier about gatekeeping and stuff like that. It's like that is the experience I want other people coming into the hobby to have, like, as soon as possible. If not their first game, then I want to try and make sure, you know, me or someone like me gets to them soon, so that they can be like sort of welcomed in and brought in.
I think that's one of the things I like most that's come about. You know, it's not recently for many people, but for in the span of like Brent and I's experience, it's recently of checking in with players before game. You know, you start the session. What are their expectations? What's going to make them feel safe at the table? That was not a language, 20 years ago that anyone spoke. And now I think it's one of the evolutions I think that has really pushed the medium forward a lot, is because there's a vocabulary, like you said, Brent, to actually talk to people and find out what is safe, what's off limits, what they don't feel comfortable with exploring, because this is a shared storytelling experience between all of us, no matter what you're playing, whether it's D&D or some other system. And I think that's one of the things I really like that's come about, again, not recently, but more recently for those of us that have been playing for a long time, that I wish would have existed since the beginning.
Yeah, same.
All right. Well, we are just about at that point where we're running out of time. So unfortunately, we did have a question that we didn't get to. What I am doing with those questions that we don't get to is I am setting them aside, and they will become some of the questions that get asked in an upcoming podcast version of this show that the title is still being workshopped, but it will release exclusively to patrons first, and then we'll release to the general public. It'll basically be a monthly third hour of this show, just not streamed live on Twitch. So I'm compiling some of those questions for that. So what I would like to do is I will like to go around again and have everyone, again, just tell us who you are and where we can find you online, and anything that you have, going on that you would like to share, streams, fundraisers, podcasts, anything along that line. And we're going to go in the reverse order from when we started. So, Trevor, we're going to start with you.
I'm Trevor, or Vertrox, whatever you want to call me. I think my Twitter link's there. Tomorrow night, actually, I'll be on the Lost Tower of Ambrosia on the Ballad of the Seven Dice Twitch account, and going through the Lost Tower of Ambrosia. It's a super fun system that they've made. It's kind of it's a mix between a homebrew system that they did and a game called You Are the Dungeon. And instead of just making this dungeon out, they actually send players through it. And it's super fun. And if you want to be a part of it, you can sign up and possibly be on an episode or be a recurring player. Like I told them, I'm like, yeah, I'm down to come for this anytime you want me. So check that out tomorrow night. It's, I think, also 8 p.m. Eastern. I have to check the times. So
Awesome. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on and hanging out tonight. And hi, Tom. That's exciting. My good friend from college actually just popped in and is saying hi. So hi, it's good to see you. All right, let's go to Joel next.
Oh God. I am a recurring cast member of Talking XP. I play a halfling wizard with an ice theme going on. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. He's all his spells deal cold damage, and he has a familiar that's an owl. It's a whole thing. I also homebrew with for Math Productions. I have a barbarian subclass called Path of the Blazing Fury. It's all about turning the rage into a literal fire. It's pretty cool. It's just for fun. And we also just released a dragon that is a dragonborn sub race called Fairy Dragonborn, and it's like a fairy dragon equivalent to the whole thing. It's full on mixed with the Feywild. It's got its own lore thing for people who are interested in that. That's mostly what I do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and hanging out tonight. It was great to get to chat with you a little bit.
Yeah, same.
Nicola.
Hi, I'm Nicola, and this is Hank. This is my big fluffy boy, Hank Johnson. You You waited too long to come, and I need to put you down now. Yeah, I'll pick you up in a second. I am yada yada Druidcraft, yada yada Tiny Hut. Next weekend. Next weekend, Good Better Quest and From Afar podcast are getting together for a crossover stream that is 2 days long. And you'll have to follow one of our Twitters, either From Afar podcast or GBQ Pod, because there are 3 streaming times and I did not memorize them. Anyway, we are combining and it's going to be amazing. And one of the things that on the Tiltify campaign you can donate for is going to be our first ever tiny pieces of merch. And that is prefaced with, I have a tremor, so if my camera can't pick this up, I apologize. Buttons. And I'm so excited for them. And so we're going to have 12 different ones. Done by Knox Batty and Dev Makes Things. And we've got like little Patrick, the carrot goblin, and all this cool. I should throw a GBQ one up, but I love the From Afar one so much. There's a Good Better Quest one. And so you can get these collector's buttons that I made. I'm very excited. These are only the test ones. That's why that one actually looks crappy. I don't know why I put it up. Anyways, so yes, you can follow us From Afar podcast and GBQ Pod on Twitter with all of our information. We are going to be raising money for the Transgender Law Center. 100% of the proceeds are going to be going to them. And look, there's our Good Better Quest logo. And there's 12 designs altogether. I'm not going to sit here and take up the whole rest of the time, even though I'm so proud of them, because you can actually have From Afar and Good Better Quest merch. And it's cool and exciting. And yeah, I'm excited for that. So next weekend at twitch.tv/FromAfarPodcast. Come join us for the Breakfast Bash. That's what we're calling it. Don't know why. Don't know what's going on. That's part of not knowing the story. It's called the Breakfast Bash. Something's happening. Anyways.
Right. Well, it sounds exciting, and I'm sure it's going to be tons of fun given the cast that is involved. So I am looking forward to it. Mark, we'll go over to you.
Well, I wanted to say first thank you to Luna for having me. I appreciate it. And it was very nice to meet all of you. We're our biggest thing on our channel right now on our YouTube, and it's also actually playing often as replays on Twitch. Our flagship show, it's our 5th edition actual play called Emancipation of Dragons. A year of prep work to put it together. We built a studio for it. It's been pretty awesome. But yeah, that's at 6:30 p.m. on Mondays on YouTube. And then if you're one of those people who are intimidated in picking up actual play games after they've already started, we actually just started a very brand new one called Eberron Borrowed Time. And that's on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on our YouTube as well. And then we're on Twitch the rest of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Because like you said, they're exclusive unless you're Critical Role.
Yes.
hashtag shade.
Right.
But also I wanted to give a quick shout out to Wendigo Workshop and Abyssal Brews on Twitter, because they're the ones that kind of introduced me to the TTRPG community, which of course led me to all of you guys. So I appreciate that, and look forward to interacting more with everybody online.
Yes, definitely. And yes, 2 very awesome accounts to follow on Twitter. If you are not, please go check them out. And last but definitely not least, we'll go to Brent.
Hi. So I have been and continue to be Brent. My Twitter handle is at Dorklord Canada. I don't have anything that I'm streaming right now. Clockwork Vines is on a break. But if you want to see some of the stuff that I write about tabletop games, you can check me out at renaissancegamer.ca, where I post. That's my site, and I post sporadically. If you're looking for a tabletop games editor, that's also where my rates and stuff are posted, so you can check that stuff out. I post more frequently on a site called the rathole.ca. which is a board and tabletop games review site. I post a weekly editorial talking about basically anything that's caught my eye that week in tabletop gaming. And projects that I have going on right now, currently I'm editing for the Court of Blades RPG that's coming out very soon from the Two Drakes that just had a Kickstarter for it. So we'll be doing the Kickstarter like release to all the people who pledged, and then that'll be available for sale for people. So if you like Blades in the Dark, you're going to like Court of Blades. It's very much that sort of Renaissance Venetian court intrigue type of game. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming on and hanging out for these last few hours. It's been great to get to chat with all of you. I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. We're here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can find us posted. These episodes are all posted to YouTube the following Tuesday, and they are available in Ears Edition, also known as podcast form, on Sundays the following Sunday after the episode airs. So if you like what you heard and you want to listen to some more or catch up on some other episodes, those are two great ways to find us. And we are going to, at this point, we're going to go raid some friends. We're going to go over and say hi to Waffles Maple Syrup, who are playing a Pathfinder game right now. And we're going to go drop a hello over there. So hope you all have a great week, and we will catch you again next Sunday night. Have a great week, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.